everyone, and welcome back to Behind the Mask. I'm one of your co-hosts, EJ, and joining me today is Lori.
Hello.
And T.
Hey, guys.
Today, during episode 12, we're going to give you an update on what we've been up to for the past few months since we took an unexpected hiatus this past summer. A lot because of professional, family, personal stuff. So there's a lot going on, and it just kind of all hit us over the summer. And so we just decided, instead of struggling to come up with ideas, we would take a brief hiatus. We didn't think it would be this long, but our schedules just seemed to not connect until now. Lori had visited me in September, so the episode you heard last week, episode 11, actually was recorded in September when she was visiting me briefly. We were keeping a couple of those because we did multiple episodes, so we're going to keep one in our back pocket for a future in case something happens again. But
you mean in case life happens?
Yeah, really. I know. Life happens every day. It's just when it gets crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to do today. It's totally going to be unscripted, except I know the three main topics we want to talk about. So if we tackle them, great. If not, and we go on these tangents, you can expect that.
Yes, we like tangents. Rabbit holes are good.
Yeah, sometimes. But you don't have to edit the podcast and sit and listen to it over and over and over again.
This is true. You go, girl. I don't have to do that. I'm grateful.
But yeah, so does anybody want to start? Or I can go since I'm talking already, or...
Yeah, I think you should go. Just start us off because you've got a lot to share.
Well, okay, so I'll go with personal. I guess we can kind of all start with our personal stuff. So when we last did the main podcast back in, I think June was our last day we recorded. My dad had gone into the hospital in early June for something. We didn't know what exactly. And over the course of 4 weeks in the hospital, his kidneys basically failed just in a snap. And we lost him in the middle of July. And it was very sudden, it was very quick. Apparently over the years, one of his kidneys had been doing extra work, or both of his kidneys had been doing some overworked, and then one just shut down, and then the other one took up the slack until it couldn't do that anymore. And so he just got sick really quick. They tried everything too in the hospital. They tried procedures, they tried even dialysis, and his body just couldn't handle it. So unfortunately, I lost my dad, which was a huge hit to my emotions. And so that's part of the reason why I know I took some time away. I have not been very active on social media even, and that's not normal for me, because especially with my other podcast, which is pretty active in the 911 Lone Star fandom, I kind of keep up with it enough to make sure I know the general news of what's going on. But I'm not really going to be on Facebook and all that stuff for a while. I'm just taking care of my mental health.
I just remember thinking that it was so really sudden, because we just, all of us, being best friends, I remember you saying that your dad was going to the hospital and that, he was really sick, and then he was better, and then he was really sick. And it was just this very up, down, thing. But it was this very long but short, that dichotomy, right? And next thing you know, you're calling me and telling me, Lori, they're saying it's going to be in the next, I think 24 to 72 hours or something. And I started making plans to come over, and, but I was just, it really was so fast.
Yeah, I think it was June 8th or 9th. I got a call about 9 o'clock at night. It was a Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that, in the early June. And the nurse from his skilled nursing facility called me and said, hey, your dad's not doing well. He hasn't been acting himself for the last couple of days. We're going to send him to the ER. Which one do you want him to go to? And where he was living was an equal distance to two different hospitals. one closer to me and one a lot further away from me. So of course I said, go to the one closest to me. And so they took him to the hospital, and with COVID restrictions, they were limiting people in the ER. And so I couldn't really go over and see him that frequently.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, like he was in the ICU for a short time, and then he started getting better and fluids, and they thought he was kind of on the upswing. And then his numbers just went from good to like worse, and then they got better, and then they just like completely got worse.
They tanked. Yeah.
And I remember there was one day, and so I started going over like 3-4 times a week, like going over to the hospital. And I remember there was one day of clarity, and ever since I was a kid, whenever I go to bed or leave my parents, you know, I always say, see you later, love ya. And it's always been a thing. I never say goodbye. And I remember there was one day that he had like the clarity, like, I guess you could say that. And I, you know, when I did leave, I said, Dad, I got to go because visiting hours, I think we're almost up. And, you know, I said that, and then he just kind of went downhill from there. And then towards the end of June, they did do a spell of dialysis.
Right.
But because of his condition and because of how serious he was, you know, in his condition, they couldn't do a full dialysis. Like, they couldn't do a full procedure. Like, they didn't do it for as long as they normally would do a normal patient. Because
it was like his body couldn't even handle it, you know.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, because I guess the thing that was most of the shock is the fact that it was kidney failure, because there's nobody in my family that I know of that had kidney failure on his side of the family. They're like or kidney issues that I can remember.
Right.
You know, he had never been told, even in the last 6 years, that there was a concern with his kidneys, that his kidney numbers were looking a little wonky, nothing. And I even had the nurse when I was at the hospital one day who, you know, because you get some days you're in there and you get a nurse that's like really chatty and really wants to answer your questions. And others are like, why are you bothering me? And so I just happened to have one day where there was this really cool nurse, and she was willing to like open up his chart. And I said, you know, he was in the hospital in July of 2020. Here at the same hospital. I says, could you possibly look back at his records and see if some blood work was taken? And she did, and she looked at the kidney function numbers that had skyrocketed over the last month, and they were normal in July of 2020. So sometime between July of 2020 and like end of May 2021, his kidney just failed, and it just stopped. Like, it was kidneys. I guess there's more than one. Yes. So we'd never had any inclination that kidneys were something we had to look out for or anything like that. So it was definitely sudden, but like, yeah, so I get what you say, because it was a long process, because it was like, what, 5 weeks, 6 weeks of just the ups and downs. But then it was kind of slow, because it was like every day you didn't know what you were going to walk into.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Most days I'd get to the hospital and, you know, I had to come after work. So some days I'd get there at like 4:30 and I'd have to leave at 6 because that's when visiting hours closed. And in that time, he wouldn't even wake up. I'd talk to the nurses and they'd say, oh yeah, he hasn't even been awake. You know, some days he'd just be like, you know, stable and just, you know, but part of what concerned them, I guess, the facility, is he was getting, when he was coherent, he wasn't acting himself. Like, he was being a little, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I could explain it to like Lori, because she gets it. She's met my dad.
Yes.
But yeah, so he just wasn't himself, and so it's been really hard. I remember the last couple of days he'd got put on hospice, and he was returned to his skilled nursing facility because there was nothing the hospital could do for him at that point. And he was coherent the day that he was signed into hospice, and I was there. The nurse from hospice signed him in and everything. You know, and she was like, this isn't what I expected when I came over. And that was the last day that I had any clarity from him. And when I left, I said, "See you later, love you." And that was the last thing I got out of him, is, "Yeah, I love you too, kid." And so I'd been communicating with his family as best I could, with all I knew, which was not much. And his younger sister said, "I'm coming out there." And I said, "Okay, but and she's like, "But I can't get there until this date, July 10th." And I said, "Okay." I says, "We will pray that you make it," and that was our fear. He's like, "Please, please let her make it, before he passes."
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, you go on hospice. It was not looking good. And I had talked with some friends, I talked with some family members, and I'd had a friend who was a nurse who's worked in different types of nursing situations. And she kind of put her hand on my arm one day and she says, "You know that if he doesn't do dialysis, it's going to happen quickly, right?" And I says, "Well, no, but I assumed it would, And that was kind of what led me to make the decision of not pushing to do dialysis.
Right.
Because I didn't want him to go through the stress. I didn't I knew his body wouldn't be able to handle it, and I didn't think he deserved that.
Right.
So I made the tough choice to just say, we tried it. It didn't really work. And, let's let him go in peace and let God take over. And thankfully, through all of this, I was communicating with Lori and other people from church and Tina. And, we were, I was confident, I'm going to let God do what God's got to do. And my faith never wavered for that. And I was talking to somebody recently and I was like, I compare the time of losing my dad to the time of losing my mom, and it's a complete 180. And
you were in a different place.
Yeah, I was. And I had a faith foundation that I didn't have when I lost my mom.
Praise God.
Yeah. So, yeah, the summer definitely sucked.
Yeah.
There were great moments out of it.
Hey, I really enjoyed getting to meet your aunt.
Yeah. So
she was so much fun.
So going on with the story about my aunt. So for those of you who, know me, that I don't live near my family. Most of my family lives at least a couple of states away. So I don't get to see them that frequently. And so my aunt had given me a date. She's like, "I can't get there until this date. I'm coming in regardless of whether he's still alive or if he passes away." And I was like, "Okay." So he was signed into hospice on the 1st of July. And by the 7th, when I saw him, or the 8th, when I saw him, he was congested. His lungs were starting to fill with fluid. And my prayer changed from, God, make the decision clear, to let him hold on until his sister gets here. Because I knew she was coming on the 10th, which was 2 days later. And I kid you not, my aunt arrived at 1 o'clock to the airport. I picked her up. We booked it right to his facility. We got there at 2 o'clock. We were there till 6 o'clock, spending time with him. He was even more congested and more hard of breathing. He wasn't coherent. He wasn't awake at all. And, I knew that, visiting hours would soon be over and we needed to go and, get something to eat and try and just keep our, physical health up. And we left, got back to my place, and within 3 hours of getting back, at 9:30 that night, I got a phone call that he'd passed away.
Yeah.
And it was I don't know. I feel like God answered our prayers that my aunt made it in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know. I don't know if Dad didn't want us there when it happened.
Yeah.
Or if God didn't. I don't know. But, we weren't. So we got back in the car, and at 9:45 at night, we drove an hour away to go back to my dad's place and said goodbye. And, spent the next couple of days dealing with arrangements and, picking up stuff. And my aunt was there for a few days, and then Lori came out a couple of days after my dad passed. So yes, she got to meet my aunt, which was really cool because I don't think you'd met my aunt when she was here last, because she visited a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And I think you were already moved back to Spokane by then.
Yep.
So I was glad that you got to meet her, and but wish it had been under better circumstances. So
yes.
You know, I was super grateful that she was here. Super grateful that you know, that you got to come out, Lori. I really appreciate that. And you came out and visited a couple. You weren't gone long. You were back like less than 6-8 weeks later, weren't you? Something like that.
Yep.
So we've had some adventures. Yeah, so kind of personal I've had a lot of downs, but I've had a lot of great ups too. I've spoken about my weight loss journey. I'm currently sitting at about 50 pounds weight loss. So
good job, Erin.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's definitely not been easy, and I'm a couple of pounds up from where I was. So I'm put on a couple, but you know, that can happen, and I can sit at the same weight for a while. So I'm like, you know what? I've still already lost X amount of pounds. I'm going to keep doing it. I just got to get back on better habit. But so it's good. You know, it's nice to fit into clothes that didn't fit as well before, and now you put them on and they're loose and comfortable to wear, instead of like worrying you're gonna, like, the shirt's gonna be too short or something.
What do you attribute the weight loss to, EJ?
Just like, what do you mean?
Like, have you been doing anything in particular?
Oh yeah. Well, primarily, so I did start working with the nutritionist back in the end of March. And for the first couple of weeks of working with her, I just logged all the food that I ate. And then we just kind of looked at what was going on. And she's like, I can see the problem. And she said, you're eating too many carbs. And she's like, you need to get more color on your plate, because I wasn't eating vegetables. So I've really cut back the carb intake to about a quarter of what I was getting before. And I've increased my protein, because I wasn't getting a ton of protein, which was surprising, because I always have a meat of some kind with my meal, because I love meat. Okay, that sounded wrong, but I do. I'm not a...
You're a carnivore.
Vegetarian. Yeah, I'm a carnivore. I could never be a vegetarian.
No, me either. I don't think any of the three of us are.
Nope.
I'm like, you throw a good steak in front of me, I will eat the whole thing except the fat.
Amen. Me
so,
too.
You know, and so she didn't just we didn't put together like, you have to do this, you have to do that. What she just gave me is like, well, maybe you could cut this out, and maybe instead of eating, you know, like the regular peanut, or maybe you could get the no sugar added peanut butter, and that's a little less carbs. And so it's just been making some small changes with the types of things I'm getting. So I've just primarily been doing that. I'm not on anything specific like a keto diet or anything like that.
I love that, because that really is the message to anybody who needs to make any kind of changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not about quitting it completely. Sometimes it's making changes to it. So the fact that you lowered your carbs, but you didn't get rid of your carbs.
Right.
And you looked for things that were acceptable to you, like no sugar added peanut butter, increasing your colors on your plate, and stuff like that. And the fact that you've had such great success so far with that just really speaks to that approach.
Yeah, amen. I totally agree. You know,
really.
Yeah, and you know, and I've tried, you know, structured diets before, and they just never worked for me. Or they'd work for a certain length of time. I'd lose like 15 pounds, and then I'd put it all back on.
Right.
And then some, right? Because there's always a little bounce back, you know.
And I remember.
I was just going to say, I think there's something to be said for the power of making a choice in the moment, making a mindful choice in the moment. Like, I can certainly eat this donut, and I would enjoy it, and that's okay. But I would also enjoy this little platter of fruit that, after I gave up sugar, suddenly tasted wonderful to me. I used to hate fruit, but making that choice in that moment, I don't feel like I'm gypping myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would agree with all of that.
Yeah.
And what's really great too, I keep interrupting you, EJ, I'm sorry,
No, it's
but
okay.
I think what's really truly amazing is that that's been part of your journey, even with the loss of your dad.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
times,
say. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times when you experience a loss like that, it can really, even if you stay on the same eating pattern, your body responds to that stress and that grief and wants to store things away because it's like, oh, we're under emergency. We need to store this.
Yep.
And you manage to continue to do that. I mean, and that's just staying on that, approach.
Yeah.
A lot of people will also then comfort eat too. So,
Yeah.
Which I do admit I comfort eat, but you're right. I actually was going to say that too, is because I weighed myself at the end of June, because at the time I didn't have a scale at my house. So the only time I'd weigh myself is like if I took a client to like their doctor's appointment and they had, to get weighed. So I'd say, hey, can I hop on the scale really quick? Or I'd have a doctor's appointment where I'd have to go and then get weighed. So I didn't have I wasn't able to initially consistently weigh myself. I weighed myself at the end of June. I was a certain weight. I weighed myself 1 month later. So at the end of July, 2 weeks after my dad had passed away, and I was the exact same weight.
Wow.
And since then, I've lost weight, since then.
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was very happy. And I noticed that too, because I've had friends who have gone through struggles with their, family members having issues, and they put on weight because they're stressed and stuff. And the next thing you know, they're, 30, 40 pounds heavier because of the stress. And I'm like, yeah, I did not experience that. So I'm grateful to God for keeping me on track with that.
Well, I think too, it's a testament to the fact that it's just another sign, Aaron, that you were in a different place this time, spiritually, mentally, physically. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm your big sister, so I can say I've seen maturity and growth over the last, several years. You're growing and maturing and just becoming this beautiful woman that you're meant to be. And you were still broken, if you will, and definitely didn't have the spiritual foundation.
Right.
But even socially and emotionally and all of those things, I didn't feel like you had this complete, just more whole and healthy life. I mean, when we first met, and you have grown so much in that time. And I'm like a big, proud sister, and I just am so proud of you. And I want to encourage you to keep it up. And I mean, it's kind of why we're doing this podcast, right? We're trying to be our authentic selves. We're trying to figure out who God created us to be, get behind those masks and make some good changes, and learn and grow. And I feel like that is a huge testament to why I feel like this was a different experience for you than when your mom passed away.
Yeah. Amen.
So,
no, I appreciate that. And thanks for the encouragement, because that means a lot. And it also means a lot that people are noticing the change in me.
Yeah.
Because you don't always get that feedback sometimes. Like, I know you shared some of that with me before. So
yeah,
I was aware of it from you, but there's other people that have also shared. And I sing at church, and I will be the first one to admit, I was very uncomfortable singing in front of people, and I still kind of am. And even today, singing at church, we sing a song that we don't often sing. And instead of it being just a song we all sing, every singer or every soprano, alto, bass, tenor all have different parts, different words to sing. They're all over the top of each other. And I always struggle with that because I sing soprano usually. and our alto has been out for a couple of weeks. And so the leader wanted me to sing the alto part, which I could do because I know that one. Then the soprano one always scares me, but I ended up having to sing the soprano part because the other soprano that was there was more comfortable doing the alto part. So I was just really like the self-conscious, and I think I get up, so then to hear that about, like, okay, so like I am doing things right, I will get there. Like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You will get there one day. And then like, and I love singing. Like I love singing, I love dancing, I love doing all that stuff. So it's just like the more like when I get encouragement about it, it really means a lot because I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right things. Like I'm on the right track.
It's nice to feel like something is going in a good direction.
Yeah, at least I know I'm in the same train yard or the right train yard. I haven't missed a turn somewhere.
Oh gosh, I love it. Massive derailment. U-turn.
Yeah, really. And then, we're recording this on the 24th of October. And
it is so hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe we're almost at the end of October. Halloween is a week away.
Oh my.
So I'm super excited because the last 2 Novembers I've worked on a novel to work on my first original fiction novel, and I literally finished it today and wrote the end.
Yay!
So 115,000 words down, and now it's time to edit.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Sometime I'm hoping in the early 2022 I will have it published.
Yay.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know. I'm super excited. I was a little late to the meeting I was going to today because I was like, nope, I'm finishing this last couple of paragraphs. I'm not leaving until it's done. And so I got there right on time. But
way to set those boundaries. Way to get it done, girl.
So yeah, yeah. And so on top of that, I have another one I'm getting ready to start. For anyone who knows about NaNoWriMo, and anybody who knows me, I'm sure has heard me talk about it. It's National Novel Writers Month. It was something that was started in like 1999 with a couple of people, and they just decided, hey, let's write 50,000 words of a novel in November because it's starting to get cold out and yucky. People aren't going outside, so what can we do while we're inside? Let's write a novel. And it slowly has grown over the last 22 years and I didn't pick up on it until about 3 years ago. So 2019 was my first year, and I'd had a novel idea for a while. So I worked on it in 2019, finished. I got the 50,000 and a little bit more. And then the same with 2020, I picked it back up again. And then I didn't touch it after the end of November of last year until this month. I was like, I got to finish it because I don't want to do this one on the next NaNoWriMo. I want to do something else. I have another idea I've been working on. Yeah, so I'm excited. And I've also got some other irons in the fire when it comes to publishing some things. So I'll eventually share about that. But I'm keeping that kind of secret.
All right.
Well, so I've been talking for like a half an hour, so please.
Yeah. You go for it, T.
Why me? You can go next.
No. I always talk. I talk. You talk.
Lori's just straining her voice because she went karaokeing last night.
Yeah, well, I don't know why she gets to have that excuse.
Oh, that's right. You were there too.
I don't know. I feel like I lost it, but you go first.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to say. I feel like much of my life is same old every day. I know that it was difficult for me to be involved in podcasts, anything to do with speaking, because I had some dental work done. I think for me, what's so significant about that is I had my youngest daughter in 1995, and when I was pregnant with her, my ex-husband and I and our 2 other kids we were homeless, and I didn't have health care available to me. I had prenatal care, but not like my dental care. And sometimes what happens during pregnancies is a woman's teeth can be affected because not enough nutrition or nutrients are getting to the teeth. And then with not having the dental care available to me from that point and I had it off and on throughout the years and would try to get as much taken care of as I could. But it was just downward spiral. So by the time I graduated with my master's degree in 2011, my teeth were really, really bad. I really almost couldn't eat. And my front teeth were starting to be affected, and it really messed with my self-esteem. I was getting ready to go out into professional work. Really felt like it was a hurdle. And so my ex and I decided we would tackle this, and managed to get enough credit to be able to get all my most of my teeth removed and to get temporary dentures. And they'd left 6 on the bottom so that it would hold in the lower denture. So I had a partial lower and full upper. And the idea is the temporaries were for only 3 months, and then we would have to go back in, and we'd used up all the credit to that point. But we were hoping to have it paid down enough to go back in and get the permanence, and that never happened. And so the teeth would break out of them, and I would glue them back in. The lower plate broke in half. I glued that back together, and then there were 2 on the bottom that I could just never glue in and keep in. So I always felt like every time I saw myself, I looked like a bulldog because of the way the lowers were.
Which, by the way, you didn't, but
I'm gonna say you did not look like that.
That's what it looked like to me. And and then slowly over the years, as I was gluing the teeth back in, my upper teeth. Now, before I did this, I had really pretty teeth. All my teeth were super straight, and before they deteriorated, and then with the dentures, it was really cool that first little bit, because they were straight and they looked so pretty. And then, but over time, as I kept having to glue them back in, and I even had to buy off probably Amazon a set of fake teeth and to use those to glue in, because if they broke in the middle of the night, I swallowed them.
Oh no!
So over time, my upper teeth, I looked like I had like really super crooked teeth because I could only do so much with it. So, so finally this summer we just took a leap of faith, and in July I had the last of my teeth removed, and I had to wait. I think it was like 3 months before I could go in and get.
It did take a long time,
but it's supposed to. Yeah.
But they don't see that going into it.
Right. Exactly.
She told me, I was like, well, can I get them right away? And she's like, no, call me in 2 weeks. We'll see how you're feeling. And I said, okay. So I called her in 2 weeks, and she said, yeah, no, you're not going to be ready yet. Wait another couple of weeks. And then I waited another couple of weeks, and I said, now? And she goes, send me a picture. So because I didn't want to drive that far, or she didn't want me to drive that far. And I sent her a picture, and she goes, and by this point, I'm a month in. I'm thinking, yeah, the swelling's down, and I feel like they're doing good. And I sent her a picture. She goes, nope. She goes, you see how you have those holes in your gum still? And I was like, yeah. She goes, those have to be closed up. I'm like, that could take months. She goes, yep. I was like, why did you guys tell me this? But anyway, yeah. So finally, at the beginning of October, I was getting ready to go on a trip for work to Atlanta, Georgia. And I got a hold of her, and I said, is there any way they are close enough now so that I've got this trip? Please tell me I can have teeth for the trip. Because I've been going around with just those crooked uppers in my mouth. And she's like, okay, send me pictures. I sent her pictures. She's like, yeah, it's good enough. And she scheduled it and made sure I had them before I went on my trip.
Awesome. It was so awesome. I was so excited for you.
Yeah. So I'm still adjusting to them, eating wise, but I'll tell you, it has been 10 years of being mortified by my mouth. Well, longer than that, because, you figure it started back in 95, but
yeah.
This last year and a half with the COVID stuff and having to do everything via video, it really came to bear. It really became to me so front and center of an issue. Like it was almost debilitating. It was very, I have not felt that much self-consciousness in a very, very long time to that degree. And so now it's pretty awesome. I can talk and smile and do business stuff and not feel self-conscious. So
I love it. Oh, and no more whistling.
And no more whistling.
Oh, gosh.
That was funny. Right after I had my, Lori, you're funny. Right after I had my teeth pulled, if I tried to say anything with a sh sound or
oh no.
Yeah.
Well, I remember calling you to see if maybe you were ready, and you were talking. I'm like, oh gosh, she's whistling as she's talking. And you're like, no, Lori,
you're fine.
No,
You're
Lori,
fine.
I'm not.
You can do this. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. I'm all mushy still. I'm still talking mushy.
Oh man, it was funny.
So, all my life, when my mom was around, she had an upper plate. And so, as a kid, we're taught, hey, you go brush your teeth after dinner. So I'm sure you know where this is going. After dinner, I'd say, okay, I'm going to go brush my teeth. My mom, being the witty one, would pull her upper plate out and go and try and hand it to me and say, okay, brush mine too.
That would do that. She used to do that type of stuff too. I find it funny.
You ladies are funny.
You said you've been getting used to them. My dad got them, and I know a few other people who have gotten them recently in like the last few years, and they hate their dentures. But my mom she got them in 84, I think. 80. Well, it was before I was born. It's probably 83. And she never had them adjusted. She never had to. I don't know. They must have made it with magic or something that like, I don't know. Cause she like
magic
never
teeth.
had them adjusted. She never went to the dentist. She never had issues with them. And and she never had to put any of that stuff in that, fix a dent or whatever it's called to like hold it on. She never used any of that stuff.
Yeah. These, I don't have to put any of that in. The dentist I went to, it cost me a little bit more than I could afford, but I did it anyway. Because she has just had a really good reputation for that. When she did it, it was and that was part of the reason she made me wait so long. Is she wanted me to get, when I got them, to not need any relining, any of that stuff. My boss went through. I think she's just now talking about maybe going in and seeing about getting them relining, and she's had hers for a little over a year, and so our mouths can change a little bit, especially.
Right.
As we get older. So, but I think one of the things that the feedback that I've gotten, everybody who sees me now that doesn't know, they're like, have you lost weight?
No.
Well, maybe some, maybe a little bit, because, that 3 months no teeth can really change your eating habits.
Right.
But it's the fact that having good teeth in my mouth has changed the structure of my face.
Yes. Okay. And you're smiling more.
And I'm smiling more. Yeah.
Which is just infectious and contagious and lovely to see.
So, other than that, the highlight of my personal life was that trip to Atlanta, Georgia. I got to see where Martin Luther King Jr. was born, and where him and his wife are entombed, and the church he grew up in, and
nice.
And stuff like that. And then
what a cool experience.
Yeah. Got to see the Ponce City Market, I think is what it was called. And then another place, and got to drive around a little bit and see stuff. So,
and learn lots at your conference.
Yes, that too. I'm
pretty. I did this, and this, and oh, by the way, I guess I did go to the conference too.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of a side note. So the conference we went to was the National Crime Victims Conference, and so we left Monday night to stay at a hotel in by the airport, and on our way to the hotel so that we could catch a flight early the next morning, because it was a long flight Tuesday yeah. Anyway, so, but anyway, so we stopped at a restaurant at the mall to eat. And we came out from that, and my boss's car had been broken into. And one of my coworkers' purses had been stolen. And so, it wasn't lost on us that here we are a crime victim agency going to a crime victim conference, and we're now victims of crime.
Right.
So, oh my gosh. Wow. And all the horrors that go with that right now, because so my boss, of course, called the police, and she was put through to voicemail.
That's insane. I still don't get that.
We got more response from mall security. They may have video, but they said this happens every night. And matter of fact, the restaurant we'd eaten at, when I'd gone in to ask them to call security, they said that it happens to their employee vehicles all the time. And matter of fact, when I said this had happened, a couple of them rushed out to their vehicles because they'd already had it happen to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then my boss finally got a call back from the police department a couple of days later and got the information, and then they offered to send out someone to fingerprint the car that was now back in our hometown.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, it's a little late for that,
Right.
So all of the things that and then I'd even posted on Facebook about it, and I took the post down because we were getting victim shamed. It was our fault
that the car that really blew me away. So I do not understand that.
Yeah, it was our fault that the car had been broke into, and we shouldn't expect better of the police department. And I can go on a spiel about that. I won't on this podcast because I don't think it's the place for that. But yeah, and so and it just reminded me of all the things that I've heard victims talk about in what I do, and a lot of what we learn about at these conferences is that this is something that victims often experience, is that victim blaming,
which is just ridiculous. It's really sad, actually.
So really, all the cost of the repairs will my boss will have to pay for that. So not only do that sense of violation in the moment and all of that stuff, that the victim has to cover the cost.
Yeah. I've been there.
Are you serious? That's not covered under I haven't driven in more than a decade. So
yeah, her insurance, I can't remember if her deductible was more than the cost of so I don't know if her insurance covered it or not.
Wow.
Well, I've had my car broken into and I had to pay for it. I didn't get any payback because my car, my deductible was higher than what it was going to cost to fix the window.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's easier to just not bother putting a claim into your insurance company because your deductible might be $1,000 and the window was only $300.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And it'll raise your insurance too. It could.
Wow.
Yeah. For some insurance.
So more really, if you will, victim shaming. More, it's the victim, right? Oh yeah. You know what? We'll get to that. We'll have to put this into a future podcast. Totally.
Oh, absolutely. I could see that being a topic.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely going to have to do that. So, well, thanks for sharing, T and Aaron. I've had some adventures since we had our break, and I'm not going to lie, I wasn't at the same place that you both were. And so I was like, no, I don't want to take a break. I'm doing good. I want to keep going, and
you did have something come up during that break that you would not have been able to record.
Exactly.
No, that's just it. So it was I was just, but in the beginning I was like, no. I don't want to take this break. I don't want to stop. I don't want to lose our momentum and, all this stuff. But, divine timing and God knowing where we were and, all these things going on. So honestly, okay, so stroke brain, okay, I have gaps sometimes where I'm like, so I had bariatric surgery. I have a sleep, Things have been going well with the surgery. I've had a few hiccups, but I had a major one during this break. And had we not been on break, we would have been on break then, because I almost died. I just, like, it's still, you have
As
to
she
wrap your
laughs about it.
brain about it. Well, okay, I have to laugh because, a friend was talking to me earlier, and he was just mentioning, he goes, Lori, you literally, like, I don't think you grasp what a walking miracle you are. And I'm like, well, no, I am. He goes, no, stop. I'm just going to list off like 10 things I can think of that make you a walking miracle, And he gets about halfway through this. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. He's like, you're not supposed to be alive and walking.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, oh, that's a thing. That's a real thing. That's actually happened to me.
How are you still standing?
Right. So, kind of learning to embrace that. And so we've talked about, being advocates for ourselves. So basically what happened was, one of my specialists was really trying to help me, and she was trying to solve one little piece of the big, large health pie, right? And she unfortunately just didn't calculate the bigger picture, which is my dying liver, and forgot to put in the bariatric piece. And so with those things, we were trying to get me off of insulin, because my A1C numbers have been rocking it since my surgery, which is awesome. I'm very excited about that, and they're still doing really well. I'm currently sitting at like a 6.1. It's going really well. I haven't seen that kind of an A1C number, if you know anything about that, since before I was diagnosed with diabetes. So it's just great. It's considered an actual pre-diabetic number. So that's just amazing. And I've been enjoying that. So we were like, let's stop insulin, and we're going to go on one of these new drugs. And of course, a lot of people will understand this. There are formularies and there are all these things. And so we wanted to go back onto a drug that we knew my body already had done well with, but it was no longer in the formulary. And so I couldn't get it. And these drugs are very, very expensive, and because drugs are. And so she's like, well, there's this other drug, we could, it's not in the same family, but I think it'll work for you, And she's like, but, I want you to take like a half a pill and then work your way up, and then a week later, take the other one. So I took the half a pill. The first 2 days really were like, the room was spinning, things were not going great, but then it kind of seemed to balance itself out a little bit. And I thought I would be fine. And I thought it got better. And so I kept taking it. And so then the next week I added in the full pill. And it was like putting in that other half of the pill literally sent my body into shutdown mode. So my body was not retaining the fluids, my blood pressure. I was passing out. I passed out in my house. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Every time I would go to stand up, the room's spinning, everything's going. I'm really nauseous, And in the midst of all this, with everything going on, I've started with a new caregiver, we haven't quite got the schedule down, like everything is really kind of in just kind of a very chaotic state. And I'm one to do I don't know. I feel like I've had enough sickness, and the whole world does not need to know that or want to hear that I'm experiencing something not going right again. And so I really kind of suffered in silence. I didn't say a lot because I don't know. There's just this thing in me that says, Lori,
I know what that is.
Go there.
It's called stubbornness, and you have a lot of it.
I do, but I don't know. So I just sat there, just stubborn. My son was like, Mom, how long has this been going on? But he's at the hospital. I'm now in the hospital, and I've been admitted. And my son's like, Mom, why didn't you say anything? I was like, well, you guys were busy. He goes, not that busy.
Yeah, really.
And I was like, oh, I thought it was fine. He goes, Mom, you almost died. It was not fine. I was like, sorry, son, So what the internist internal medicine doctor at the hospital realized was there was a combination of things going on. So I too have lost a lot of weight. I've now lost 63 pounds. So, I'm doing well that way. And, but none of my meds had been adjusted for that. So I was taking meds for a person that weighed 63 pounds more than I do at the time. And so he's like, you're taking way too much of this and way too much of this. And why wasn't this adjusted? And then he's looking at this new diabetic drug and he goes, and who put you on this? He goes, it specifically says if you're a bariatric patient, you shouldn't take this medicine. And I was like, oh my gosh, He goes, literally what's been going on is everything is being shoved out of your system. He said, you can't put enough in to maintain what your body needs just to function. And I was like, oh my gosh, So shout out to those of you, with, chronic illness and other things. I talk a lot about this. We have to be our own best advocates. But also we have to remember that sometimes our doctors are infallible, imperfect human beings and won't connect all the dots. And I've learned, so we did set up some new stuff after this happened. So I spent almost 10 days in the hospital, but so every new drug that I now even consider has to go through my pharmacist and my liver specialist and my RN through the bariatric specialty team, so that they can all be like, oh, one can raise those flags or they can all give the all clear and say, no, this should be good. She should be fine, Yeah. So,
and anyway, that's what's supposed to happen.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is that's a pharmacist, first off, is supposed to be trained in looking at a list of all your medication, being like, not going to work.
Right. Right.
And they have all these computer systems that are supposed to flag that anyways, like when a doctor prescribes something. So it's like several different things kind of fell out, like it didn't connect like it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And so like it progressively just got worse, and you were taking diuretics at a strength for a person who was 63 pounds heavier.
Yep.
And then you were losing more water than you could put in.
Right. It was just crazy.
Your stomach is only so small, like so big.
So big now, yeah. They put 4 bags of fluid to me in the first night that I was there. 4 bags of fluids. And I was still like, they're like, you're still dehydrated, And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'd gotten severely dehydrated, was getting malnourished. And that was the weird thing. Like, I've been sick. I've been disabled, for a decade now. And I'm used to looking at my blood work and my labs. And, I often get, at least one flag on, some piece of blood work. We were in the hospital every other thing had a flag on it. Like, it was too low, it was too high, it was too this, it was too that. And like, my doctor was like, your body is just so messed up. So I just had to, basically, it took about 4 days just to kind of get my body back into some semblance of normalcy. And then, you know, it really took another couple of weeks for my body to recover from that. And I've just recently felt like, oh, I'm feeling healthier. I'm feeling better. I went, you know, been going on a couple of fall walks and getting some pictures, and came out and saw you again, Erin, and we, you know, did that thing with your dad's ashes. And I actually felt that was probably the first time I was really feeling like, wow, I feel almost normal again, you know? And so, yeah, so, you know, here I was not wanting to take the break, but apparently I needed to take a break with you all because, you know, my body had other plans.
Right. So you guys got to understand something about Lori. She is short, but she's got these fast little legs. And I kid you not. She leaves me in the dust when I'm walking anywhere. This was like when we were both a little heavier. Like, she would just buzz off, like run off. I was like, Lori, slow down. Sorry, you got to understand, I had sons. I'm used to keep going fast.
Right?
I'm like, so you don't have them now. Like, your kids are adults now. You don't have to chase after them. But like, she will breeze past. And so when you were there in September, you actually were like taking breaks, which I'd never seen you do on a walk before.
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm going to soak up this because I need a break. Because I'm like, I can't keep up with you. Because it got to a point on some of our little treks, even if it was just like a short distance from somewhere, I was just like, let Lori go wherever she wants because I'm not chasing after her.
And please don't let her fall because I don't want to have to go save her.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be like, just because I'd yell after, like, don't fall. Don't give me any reason to, or call her son.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, that's funny. I'm learning physical therapy, and a lot of that stuff is starting to sink through my thick, stubborn skull, and I'm learning to kind of slow down a little bit. I still get where I'm going, and I don't have to be at Mach 2.
Really?
Right. This is a good thing. And just kind of try to, I don't know, I'm trying to learn to soak things in and to be okay and savor moments. And, you know, it's funny, we were talking, I had a really busy day with the family. We celebrated my granddaughter's first birthday, and had a lovely little party and lots of pictures because that's me too. And so we're doing all that stuff, and I sat down and I'm editing pictures, and I went to go on Facebook, and in my memories I was like, oh, it's my spiritual birthday. And if you don't know what that means, but basically it's just a way of celebrating the day that we got baptized and chose to make Jesus Lord of our lives, you know. And so I was like, oh, it's my birthday. And so I made a little post about it, you know, and I really just kind of reflected on, you know, some of the healthy changes that I'm making and that I'm choosing. And, you know, the surgery, of course, was a big one. And, you know, but just personal choices and spiritual choices. And I'm just really trying to, and, you know, doing this podcast with you too. And I'm really trying to embrace and figure out and learn and be comfortable with who I was created to be, and learning to know that I'm not here just to please other people. And it's not that we don't want to love others or live sacrificially or, you know, encourage one another. But honestly, until this part of my journey, I'm I think I thought that self-care and self-love was selfish and evil. Like it was just not okay. And I recently had this woman that I did a vision thing with. She was like, Lori, I don't know. She goes, I want you to go back and study out Jesus, you know? And I was like, okay. She goes, and pay very close attention to the self-care that he did, you know? And I was like, Jesus was into self-care? Like
how many times did he go pray by himself?
Right. And she said that, and he took time to rest, and he did these things, and he would leave the crowd, or he would do these things, and he would say no, and he would say yes. He had good, healthy boundaries, and, you know, and he was in tune with his father, and, you know, all this stuff. And she goes, all of that is a part of self-care. And so it's not bad, Lori. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so I'm learning a lot. You know, I just really felt like if I wasn't out there bleeding for others and dying, then, you know, for a good cause, you know, it's not like I was out there, you know, just, you know, for nothing. And it's not that those things aren't good and they're not worthy things for me to pay attention to and to care about, but not to the detriment of my health and spiritually, mentally, physically, you know. And most of my life has been to the detriment of my own spiritual, mental, and physical health. And that is a massive revelation for me, and one I'm trying to learn to embrace and trying to learn to, you know, that's why I'm trying to get behind these masks. And, you know, Tina, you remind me a lot. They're not all bad, and they're not. But I need to learn how to live with them healthily, not being consumed by them or what they do for me or don't do for me, you know. And to, you know, as a good friend of mine said, sitting by my hospital bed a few years ago, he's like, Lori, you don't love yourself. And I was like, yeah, and I couldn't even finish that sentence because I realized he was right, you know. And it's kind of been a journey since then of trying to figure out, okay, what does that look like? What does that mean? And yeah, so that's what I've been trying to do. So anyway, it ended up being a good thing. We took a break. So now we're back. We're revived. we got things going. So where are we going professionally, ladies? That's what we're going to talk about next, right?
Yep.
Who wants to start professionally? What's been going on professionally?
Crickets.
I know, right? I mean, I guess I could go. I mean, yeah. So I shared a little bit earlier. I finished the first draft of my first original fiction novel, so that's a huge excitement. So that will be going into editing in December, I think. And so November, I'll start back up doing National Novel Writers Month again. It's shorthand as NaNoWriMo online, and I'll start with a new story idea I've had brewing for several years that I want to tackle. So I'm getting on that. And the little hint I was dropping earlier, I'm going to start publishing a few things on Amazon Kindle, some different projects. So I can start getting some passive income from that. And also, I'll self-publish my novel when it's edited and I'm happy with the novel. And I finished it at 115,000 and some change words. And I know I'm going to edit out at least 20,000 or more. Because a traditional novel like I've written is usually 70 to 90,000. And I'm pretty sure I can get it to that. It's but I'm excited. I'm professionally also, I've helped Lori. I don't know if you want to share, but
yes.
so you share and then I'll finish because it goes along with that.
Yes. So I finished and self-published with the help of EJ. I finished my first children's book, and that was, I tell you, pushing that self-publish button, or when they finally, with this children's book thing.
Yeah, really.
Oh my goodness gracious. So Aaron and I definitely learned that what is it? The stuff that they desire. All of the
requirements.
Yes, the requirements. It was skipping my brain. I just couldn't get it.
Yeah, they're pretty specific about certain things when it comes to the size of documents that you have to put in there.
Margins and colors and bleeding, and I didn't even know what bleeding in a book meant, but I do now. And so I think it was almost 7 days or something, maybe 10. I don't know.
I think we worked on it on a Tuesday, and I think it was Sunday we finally got the final. Right? I was like, fine, I'm just taking it all out.
Every day we kept getting a new email that said, "Could you change this? Could you do this? Could you do that?"
I know, right?
And it was so funny because we had prayed that night, and we finally, we prayed, we worked on it, and you're like, Lori, if this comes back again, I think we're going to have to get professional help. Like, we can't do this, And I was so excited when I woke up the next morning to, congratulations, your book is now available. And I was like, my book is available already. Like, wow, okay. We went from, you need 20 million things to, it's done. It's already online.
Yeah. Well, and I think, because I was thinking, now that I've had some chance to process it as to what happened, I think what was happening is, you had a friend of yours had done some artwork for it.
Yeah.
And I'd done a cover for it, and the cover was the right size for a 6x9 book, but we used some of the images inside, and when you put a picture in a document, you can adjust the size. Well, it was too far, I guess, over the bleed line for them to be wanting it. Yeah. So and I'm like, it doesn't matter. You cut off the corner of the fur. I don't care. Right? The picture is still there, Because, oftentimes with children's books especially, you'll see like a little picture in the middle of a page or something. And that's what I was trying to get. But for some reason, just between their requirements and what I was doing, nothing was working. And I'm like, I didn't really think I was going to have to get professional help. But it just got to a point where I'm like, we're going to have to talk to them person to person, because they would send you an email.
Yep.
And then give us all this X, Y, and Z things to do. And you're like, well, I don't know what it means. And I'm like, well, I know what it means. I just not understanding why they want it that way, because I already did that. So it definitely was an adventure, but through that and stuff, I am going to start, like I said, I'm going to start publishing, and I've learned a lot. So my goal is to self-publish my novels on Amazon I'll make an ebook as well as Kindle Direct Publishing, which is cool because then I don't have to carry stock of my books. And anybody who wants to buy the book can just buy it online, and Amazon will print it and everything and send it right to you.
Yes, it's amazing.
So then I don't have to have stock. I mean, I can order some myself, and then, I'll just make the money the same way if I want to sell them, or I want to donate them or something.
Yeah.
And, and I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of Amazon, and I'm not advocating for it or against it, but I think it's a great opportunity to allow authors to self-publish works. I think back to hearing about all those different authors like J.K. Rowling and even Debbie May Comber and some of the other hugely professional or popular ones, well known. They struggled to get a publishing company to pick up their book.
Yeah.
And these books are in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, long before we had the internet.
And I think the good thing about self-publishing in this way and making it, painless is, well, obviously it wasn't painless. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. We forgive you because it was pretty painful.
But anyway, I mean, if you think about it, you guys are talking about how it took, 6 to 10 days or something like that.
Yep.
Back in the day, now I feel old. But anyway, back in the day,
we are old.
It could take years to get something published.
Right.
And so So when you think about that in that kind of context, and then if you self-publish at least your first book, it gets it out there, and you can refer to it when you're seeking a publisher.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for saying that, because I'm learning about queries, query letters to publishers and what's required. And there's like this whole section of, what have you published before? And I was like, nothing. Actually, I now can say two things. Only one children's book, but anyway, you're right. And I'm really glad that you brought up the, that really, I know it seemed like forever. We just woke up every day to a new email telling us to change something or do the same thing that we thought we already did the day before. And I am not a techie person. And they would say, I'm like, this is foreign language. I don't even know what they're asking me to do.
Right.
I would call
Which
up
is
Aaron.
what Tina was saying, is because, an author used to have to make like photocopies of their manuscript that they typed on a typewriter.
Oh my gosh.
And send that stack to like 6 publishers in hopes that one of them would even look at it.
And you had to do your research of what each publisher wanted.
Right.
Because I had actually looked at publishing a book way back when it would have been late 80s, early 90s. And I got went to the library and got the how do you get your book published books, and used a card catalog. Those still existed. Anyway, and you really needed to do your research and figure out who needed what. So some query letters some wanted them structured a certain way.
Right.
And sometimes you had to send a query letter for a query letter. Like, I've got a book idea. Would you be interested in me pitching it to you? And then some wanted you to send the first chapter or the first 3 chapters or, and so it or synopsis or you had to do your homework. And it was a lot harder then because you couldn't go on.
Right. Yeah, it's just like now a resume. Like they used to say, like even 20 years ago, they said, you have to know who you're applying to and tailor your resume to that using similar words to what is in the advertisement for the job. And if it's not structured a certain way, like, professional, like employers may just throw your resume in the trash because it's not formatted the way they want.
And you had to walk it in. You had to actually take it in.
Yeah. Right.
Now they don't want you to do that. Right. Now they don't want to see your face.
Right. Nobody wants to see anybody's face.
Don't bug me. Don't bug me right now. I'll get back to you. My people will get a hold of your people.
Exactly. Yeah. So that, and I'm still a caregiver. So I'm caring for a couple of people, and that definitely does take a toll. But I'm enjoying it. I mean, I like taking care of people, but it has its emotional drains. Would I love to get to a point where I'm like making enough money, where I don't have to work a full-time job? Yes. And and that may come in a few years, who knows. But I'm gonna put it out there on faith, and God is going to provide if it's meant to be.
I love it. I love it. Well, so since I kind of put some of my stuff in there too, thanks for, so got the children's book published, but I'll tell you this, the most wonderful blessing, because I wrote it for my grandson, was actually getting that first copy that you helped me print off.
Oh, yeah.
And reading it to him for his birthday this year. And he was just, every night we would read it, he and one of his other grandfathers, and we'd read it, and he was just glued in complete fascination to the story and to the characters, and was asking questions and just really engaged. And of course, just, filled my heart to overflowing. And it was just a very special, special time. So no matter what happens, I mean, I've already sold several books already, and kind of a cool thing, I think I've mentioned on here that I was adopted. Without going into too many details, for me, that doesn't always come with the best memories or the best things or the best thoughts. And there's, many reasons for that. But the church that I currently attend, for the size of church that we have, they have a very large contingency within our body that families who have adopted. And so we have like an adoption Sunday, and we even have like where we celebrate all that. And we have these little fundraisers, and we have a fund at our church for members within the body who would like to think about adopting. There's money in there to help them do that. And
right, because adoption is very expensive.
Oh my goodness, it's very expensive, and it's a lot, and it's a big long process. And I can't lie. Probably, for the last decade that I've been involved with this church for 15 years, I would have to leave on Adoption Sunday. I really affected me. I would often have to walk out. I would end up in tears somewhere, or just frustrated or angry or sad. I just, my heart was really messed up when it came to that whole thing. And I was thrilled to death that there were all these people that were having these great, happy experiences. But it just, for me, it was like this opening this raw wound and see, you're not normal. This didn't happen to you, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
and all those negative thoughts that come in, and I was really letting them win. And so, and this is for me, the changes that are going on in my life. So I'm sitting in church, which is awesome that we're getting to go back to physical church now and worship together and fellowship together. So we're in church, and preaching, sermons happening, and there's announcements. And in the announcements was this announcement about Adoption Day. And I was like, I literally, like, my heart, I could just feel it go. Ugh. But for some reason, I just really felt like I needed to stop worrying about my own little heart and listen. And Pastor says something like, for the fundraising this year, we're going to be adopting books. And I was like, what? What a cool idea. Like, and I'm listening to him, and he's talking about it, and I was like, and the more he talked about it, like, I was like, wow. So I sat right there, and I kind of prayed about it, and I'm like, I wonder if they might want my book, but that I just wrote, because it's a children's book. And so I went up after church, and I'm talking with the pastor, and he's like, oh, Lori, that's a great idea. What, wonderful idea. And he's like, talk to, the secretary, and, we'll get that all figured out. And, it was a little expensive what you and I did for David, my grandson.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I don't have that kind of money to be just printing off books randomly.
Right.
So I'm chatting with the secretary, and she goes, oh, well, I think we could cover the cost of that, whatever. But then she said, but, let me get back to you. But she goes, and then she said, no. We want 10 of them. And I was like, it's not published. Like, it's not a thing yet.
Right.
Like, I just printed one off for my grandson. Like, it just wasn't quite. So then, of course, I contact you, but honestly.
And by then I've been doing some research on my own about how to publish on there and Kindle
Yes,
and stuff.
which was I was so grateful for.
I was like, oh, well, I know how to do that, and I can make this, and I know how to do that. So all I have to do is this, this, and this. And you're like, great, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Right, right. So it was just really great.
You have Lori down to a T.
Yes. What were we going to say? Basically what?
I said, yeah, basically, I was agreeing to what Tina said.
So in this whole process, I've been journaling about it, and I've been just processing my feelings, and I feel like this is an amazing opportunity for me to let some of that hurt go and to move forward in a healthy way. And they're going to be, they've already purchased them. They purchased them the very first day that they were available, which was awesome, and so they've already purchased them, and I'm going to be signing them, and it's turned into this really amazing cathartic event for me. And I'm actually, I think, for the first time, looking forward to Adoption Day at church. So it's just been really cool. So some other things. So I've mentioned that I'm disabled. So, I don't have the 9-to-5 job. I do a lot of volunteering. I'm working on writing. I'm working on my photography. Made it into another digital magazine, which was wonderful. And then, but I got invited to it's called a Women of Vision conference. And I was like, okay, well, I have visions, and like, I kind of think I know, don't even go there. I think I kind of know what I want to do with my life. I know what I want to be when I grow up. But, with this surgery and some of the new experiences and things, I've really kind of been struggling about, okay, what am I doing? What am I going to do as my body continues to heal? And will I go back to work full time? Will it be part time? And no matter what I do, what will it look like? And, so this vision conference was amazing. I absolutely love being in an entire room full of women that are passionate and trying to, be these women of vision themselves, and there was a couple of lines that really, really impacted me. And so I'm hoping we'll, look at some of these for, future podcast topics and stuff. But one thing was, is your inside and your outside congruent? Do they line up? Do they match? Do they, because that's what being a whole healthy person, looks like. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, mine are definitely getting more there. I'm definitely on that journey and on that path to getting the insides and the outsides congruent. But I just realized I'm still on that journey, but at least I'm headed in that direction. And so that was good. And then the other thing was, one of the women said, embrace, don't endure your truth. And this is a woman who, similar to me, had been through a lot, trauma and just different things and some health issues and things. And I loved what she said about embracing and not enduring. And Tina, you and we've talked a lot about that, and, because I'm trying not to be a victim anymore. I don't even want to just be like a survivor, I'm trying to learn to embrace, and that's a whole different way of looking at it, I feel like. And so I just really like those concepts. So the one woman who talked about embracing and not enduring, she had these complimentary sessions, and you could sign up for one. And I was like, just do it. Just sign up for one. So I signed up for one, and she called me on Thursday, and we had like an hour together, and she's like, what do you want to get out of this session? And I, shared a few things, and so she goes, I think I'd like to help you, go through this practice that we go through. And for us to do that, I need you to describe, if there were no limitations and, all this stuff, I just want you to describe a perfect day for you and what it might look like, So we go through this exercise, and I'm a pretty descriptive person, and, I feel like I get passionate about different things, and, in my conversation, this woman, in this little bit of a conversation, it was probably like 15 minutes, So she goes, now I want you to kind of close your eyes, and I'm going to read back to you so you can envision with me what I heard you say. You guys, it's going to make me cry. Like, it was so beautiful and so me and so amazing. And just, it was so fantastic. Like, I felt like I was like soaring. I mean, it impacted me for days. I've not been able to get this vision thing out of my head. And I just really was, and I'm like, well, why can't I do those things? Or why can't I do that? Or, and Tina, it includes, some of the things, I've talked about. If any of our listeners and, you guys have read my book, I talk about this home that I call Carpe Sparrow, and where I get to help women, widows, domestic violence victims, single moms, and we get to have counselors there, and just this place, this safe place. And anyway, this is all in my vision, and she totally grasped my mindfulness that I've been practicing recently, and she's like talking about foods and just all these different things, and I just really was moved by the whole process, and feel like I have a better take on where I want to go. I'm not exactly sure yet how it's going to happen, but I feel like I have a pretty much clearer vision, and I'm kind of excited about it. So, as we keep doing the podcast, I'll keep revealing more things, and we'll be talking about that. And, but I just feel like for the first time in a long time, and it's weird because it's not like going back to school or, finishing the degree or, joining this volunteer board or doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a vision that I've never really been able to quite grasp, that I feel like for the first time I'm grasping it in the realest way I've ever done before. So yeah, I was really impacted, if you can't tell.
It sounds like sort of what happened is that you had all of these scraps of ideas and thoughts and feelings and ambitions and all these things that are just sort of leftovers from all your experiences. Not exactly leftovers, but they're sort of little pieces of all these experiences that you've had. And that they're all part of who you are, part of what you dream about, part of this thing. And it sounds like what she did is
it's beautiful, almost
Tina. like she walked in and said, oh, look, your life is this puzzle that's just dumped from the box onto the table, and someone took away the picture. And now you've got all these pieces. And she's like, oh, no, here, I found the picture for you.
Yes, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. Really had like just a top of the world experience with it. It really was very, very life-changing for me. So yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you. That was very good. I like that. And she brought back a picture and gave me a picture to work with. And I felt really blessed by the whole experience. I can't wait to see what I'm going to do with it. So yeah. Well, what about you, Tina?
So
professionally,
when we first were talking about what we were going to do for this podcast and talk about where we're at professionally, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm still doing the same old. And I realized, wait a minute, no, there's a couple things. First of all, I finished what do you call it? I always just call it a training, but I did all the requirements to get to be a certified clinical trauma professional.
Yay! That's awesome.
2. So it's not just the first one; it's the second one. So I crammed in a short amount of time a 2-year course. Over, I had to start, stop because I have a very hectic schedule at work. But I finally completed that, so that's really exciting.
Yay.
I'm in the process of getting everything I need to be a supervisor. So what that would mean is that I would be able to supervise interns or people who are still working on getting their full license. And the idea of that is to be able to bring interns into the agency, which would be fantastic. I would love to mentor people, but I'd also free up a little bit of my time. We're flirting with the idea of me doing ride-alongs with the sheriff's office in our area to calls where there's been some sort of domestic violence or victims of trauma, where I can be on hand to assist with that.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of police departments are starting to implement that. I think they're doing that here in Tacoma as well.
Yeah, our sheriff's office used to do it a long time ago with our agency, where our advocates would ride out with them to calls, and then they stopped doing it for a long time, and then they've recently brought it back up. And it's something I've always been interested in doing, because I think that's probably one of my strong suits, is being able to stand still in a crisis. Like I don't typically get very I just don't get real amped up really easy. So yeah, and I've got good de-escalation skills and stuff like that. So and I build rapport quickly with people. So that's exciting. I'd like to be able to do that if we move forward with that. But yeah, and then also I've been able to I've done one already, and I'm getting ready to do another one this week, where I work with as a part of our agency, the sheriff's office asked us to come in and do some training, and so I do my part on talking about trauma, just what that looks like and whatnot. So
that's
really
wonderful.
exciting. Yeah,
that all sounds just great.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. Also, I was thinking about it while you were talking, Lori, about our conversation the other day, and how you writing this children's book reminded me of a book I'd written for my own kids when they were little, and how they still talk about this character that I made up and wrote a story about, and had lost the story somewhere along the way. And as we were talking and I was telling you what it was about, realizing how much of it came back to me, and I'm like, maybe I'll rewrite that story for them.
Oh, you so should.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I know somebody that can help publish it.
Yeah, but and the great thing, EJ, is that I'll actually understand what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. I know. At one point, I just told Lori, "He's like, just tell me what they want, and I'll send it back to you." I'm not even gonna sit here and try to explain it.
Oh man, I'm feeling a little blonde over here. Not that I can't be, and I don't always claim that. But...
No, right now you're a grape.
Well,
Does that?
Yeah.
Is that... For those of you who don't know, because we obviously can't see each other, Lori has purple hair right now.
Oh yes, I do. I just have to do fun things, you know. I had started that, you know. Remember back when I was when Chelsea was working with me, and we joked about the 50 Shades of Lori.
Yep.
And so my new caregiver, she's helping me. Don't even go there. She's helping me do my hair. And she goes, well, we could reinstitute that. I'm sure we could go up with 50 Shades, Lori. And I was like, oh my
At
God.
one time. I want to see you do 50 Shades at one time.
No, I'm not quite ready to look like a total clown.
I don't know if I'd have gotten you one more drink last night, I might have been able to get that done.
There you go. I'm such a cheap drunk now that I've had this stupid surgery. I can only have one drink, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. That's it for me. That's good.
That's good. You don't want to go in excess.
No, I don't. But it's just weird, you know. I mean, that was never a massive issue for me, you know, but, and that, you know, not the cause of my liver disease, but it's like one of those things you're like, oh yeah, I can only have one. Like, that's it. That's all there is. And I'm done, you know?
Yeah. So, we've talked personal and professional. So podcast wise, just our plans for that. Like, I know we have a couple of ideas planned for upcoming podcasts. Our goal is to continue to do every other Sunday as an update. So I don't think much is going to change on that aspect. We might switch up a couple of days depending on the holidays.
Right.
But we try to record in enough time to give me about a week to edit. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really like those two concepts that I got out of that vision conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do want to kind of dig into, and we can tie that into the mask thing, but why are we not congruent on the inside and the outside, and what causes that? What can we do about it? You know, I definitely think that would be a great place to go. And then, you know, that concept of embracing rather than enduring. And, you know, we can use lots of different, descriptive words in there, but just a very different way to look at how we survive things, how we get through things. This week, I'm participating all week long in a resiliency conference online. And really, really, like, I definitely love this concept of resiliency. And so I'm going to have lots of notes from that, and looking forward to this one speaker that is a neurologist and literally going to talk from a neurologist perspective all about.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but when you slowed down with the I was like, neurotic? Where are we going with this here?
No.
Some of the neurologists are neurotic, so I mean it works.
So anyway,
do you know the name of the neurologist?
I could look him up. I'll do that while you guys talk about something else.
No.
So yeah, you guys talk about some things you want to talk about.
I don't have anything off the top of my head. Mine's more background. I'm trying to get some stuff going so we can be a little more streamlined. I'm looking at, there's a couple of people within my church body here in Tacoma that I have considered asking to join an episode, just for
get
certain
some more
topics.
Guests.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have some of our friends and family
I would
members.
really like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of people I'm thinking of, off the top of my head right now that I think would benefit for some of the episodes. And it's funny too, because like it's a couple of people, that I know listen to it. And so during other groups, they'll make a comment about, wearing a mask, and they're like, because I listened to, your podcast. I'm like, oh, okay. or they won't, and they'll make a comment about being authentic or being, you know, wearing a mask or something, and I'm like, you know, and so then it makes me want to like go back to them and say, hey, you know, remember when you talked about that, you know, hey, can I talk to you? And then yeah, so I think it'd be cool. We've, you know, gotten established with, you know, quite a few episodes between the three of us, and I think it would be fun to add in another person just to see how it goes, and even if it's just a once in a while thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have some guests. Tina, the guy's name is Titus. I'm gonna say Chiu, Chiu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not someone I've heard of, but
Yeah. There are several doctors on this panel. There are several other things. There's you know, yeah, there are lots of doctors in here. There's going to be a rewiring the brain for resilience, and brain balance and resilience, neurology of resilience.
Now, how did you find out about this? This is through your counselor?
This is through my psychologist, my counselor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
He was so funny. I was telling Tina about it. You know, he's like, I don't normally do this with my clients, so I'd like to take off my professional hat and put on this other one. And I think that you would really like this. And it's free. And he said, as long as you can get past, they're going to try to sell you 20 million products and 20 million things. He said, I can, you know, send you the link and you can attend. And I was like, yes, I want to do this. He goes, oh, good. I was hoping you would say that. So
yeah, I'm curious if there's names like Bessel van der Kolk and Gentry. I can't remember his first name.
Okay. I'll look through and find out and, you know, just kind of see. But, you know, I figure there'll be a bunch of stuff I can share with you and everyone else. And it looks really amazing. And it's all week long, every morning. I am eternally grateful that I found out that the episodes are available to me for 24 hours. So I don't have to wake up at the ungodly hour of 7 or 8 o'clock to listen to these things.
The ungodly hour of 7 or 8.
I know. I'm like, yeah, I'm watching the clock right now, knowing I have to get up at like.
Yes. So we gotta finish up here. But anyway, yeah, I am not looking forward to that early hour. So the cool thing is, I can wake up a little bit later and start normally.
Nice.
At a time that's better for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how we, you know, at different times in our lives, we can like learn different things. And I think that's going to help enrich our podcast too, you know, because it'll bring different elements and different things we learn. And
yeah,
there's even topics that we've already had that I'm sure that we could
revisit
just with new information that we've learned or just had more thoughts on it. I know Lori and I, we definitely want to do the part 2 of our, the weight loss podcast.
Yes.
You weren't able to be a part of them for a while, so we wanted to hold off because we wanted to make sure you could be there for the like mental health side of what you're going to talk about. And you know,
we need your great wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure we could have tackled it, but like I was like, we need Tina for this. So yeah,
it's good to be needed.
Yes.
Isn't it nice to be needed?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I'm excited. You know, we're getting close to the end of the year. It's hard to believe we're almost at the end of 2021.
Thank goodness. We thought 2020 was bad. Everybody's like, yay, 2020's done. Oh, here comes 21.
You're right. Yeah. I'm ready. I don't know.
You know,
it's got to be a better year.
You see the memes that are like 2020. Everyone's like, oh, 2020. You know, hindsight's 2020. You know, blah blah blah. See, and then you know, 2020 happened, and it was like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And then you know, everyone's like, okay, 2021 is going to be great, and it's going to be 202WON, as in like 2020, and you're going to win in 2021. I'm like, it's not much better.
No, we did not do much winning in 2021.
Someone added gasoline onto.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's craziness. So, just as a thought, it was a conversation Lori and I had not too long ago, and I thought we kind of came out of that conversation was doing a mask in the mirror.
Yes.
I think that's coming up as our next one.
Oh, I haven't looked at the notes, so you know.
Oh, I don't think we've written the notes for that one, but I think we had talked about it, and we were originally going to do that one for this episode. But I'm like, we've been off for quite a while. It would be cool to check in because we've all had some stuff going on. So I think that is the next one we talked about doing.
Yes, so let's definitely put that on there. The masks.
I will try to look at the notes before the day of.
It's okay.
We're so appreciative of that. Thank you, Tina.
Just a friendly reminder that anything discussed in this podcast is not to be used as a diagnosis or a replacement for conversations with your own doctors, therapists, psychologists, or other medical professionals. Available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as BehindTheMaskPC, and if you don't use social media, you can email us at BehindTheMaskPC@gmail.com. Feel free to review us on Anchor, leave feedback on the platform you listen to us on, or message us through our social media or email because we'd love to hear what you think. If there's a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, feel free to message us, and we'll see about making it happen. You can find EJ on Twitter and Instagram as EJ8302, and if you'd like to keep these episodes coming, you can monetarily support us by visiting anchor.fm/BehindTheMaskPC/support. And on behalf of Lori, T, and myself, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.